Welcome to the G.N.A podcast, Games, Nerds, and Alcohol, where we get drunk and talk about stuff. I of course, pre-grained way too hard with the company tonight, so I showed up drunk, and now I'm just trying to maintain with a nice frosty beverage. I am being joined here tonight by a longtime friend. I actually went to college with this man the first time I went to college, way back in the day. He will forever and now be referred to as Soooda, mostly because he's got Yoda on his shirt, and one of the letters in one of his names is an S, so he is now Soooda. Dude, how are you doing tonight?
Doing well, thank you.
I know it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it's my first actual podcast experience. I've done public speaking and I've been on stages and stuff, but it's been a while, and this is a little different. I've been in a lot of web meetings, though. It feels like a web meeting.
Exactly. Like, we started the whole thing off with me going, "Can you hear me?" Like the whole seance starting, so it worked out.
It's like a web meeting from work, but with a beer.
Yeah, it's a web meeting from work with a beer. That's exactly what it is. No pressure. No jobs involved here. Just a whole bunch of beer and talking about random bullshit, which tonight our random bullshit is going to be Obi-Wan, the series. There's 4 episodes out right now, and we are going to get into that. But first, what I know everybody wants to know, what is everybody drinking? I'll start off. I have been drinking way all sorts of different things tonight, but what I am drinking currently is I am drinking a nice frosty, really, really cold, because I had it on the top shelf of the fridge, Guinness. Guinness is my go-to stout. It's nice. It's creamy. It's got that slight burnt stout flavor to it, but not that coffee flavor that you get with a lot of stouts. It doesn't have like a chocolate flavor to it. It's just that stout flavor all the way through, and it leaves a nice lingering aftertaste, which is very, very pleasant. I can drink these all night. In fact, I probably will be drinking these all night. I don't recommend doing what I just did, which was have a red Starburst and then take a swig of Guinness. It doesn't match at all. I don't even know why I did it. It was just sitting in front of me, and yeah, that's how that happened. But don't ever do that. If you happen to be in that situation, just resist the urge. What about you?
Yeah.
What are you drinking?
I'll take that advice. Well, it looks like motor oil. You very used motor oil. Kind of looks like a Guinness if you look at it. It's actually a black IPA from a brewery called Fender's Brewery. Fender's Brewery in Polk City, Iowa, which is about 10 minutes from here. We moved into Iowa about a year ago, having been from the East Coast, and now we're a Midwestern family. And there's a lot of breweries in the Iowa and the greater Des Moines metro area.
Right.
And this is one that's very good. It's really small. It's next to a very good pizza place. We haven't found a lot of good pizza places so far, but that's a good one. And my daughter likes it, so we can eat there. And they let you bring the pizza into the brewery.
Nice.
And so dinner and beers. And this is a black IPA. The name of it is the Night Tracks. And generally, like, I'm on craft beer. I like my beer. I like beer in general, and a lot of good craft beer back home, and I'm finding them here. One thing I'll say is that I've never been really into black IPAs. I've liked IPAs a lot, but the black IPAs usually the flavor profile just doesn't do anything for me. Mm-hmm. I had one of these on draft when we were there about 3 weeks ago, and I really liked it. It's like an IPA. It's a little maltier, but there's an aftertaste that some black IPAs have that IPAs don't. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but they never, it's like, oh, it's okay, but I'd rather have this or I'd rather have that. This one, I really, really was impressed when I was there. So I grabbed a couple of cans when I left, and a can of this, and I guess I saved it for this special occasion. I'm drinking it now.
Hey, there you go. So what's I know most IPAs. I've had a couple of black IPAs, and the attack is almost always very kind of hoppy, citrusy. But what's the finish like on that? Or what's the attack if the attack is different than what I described?
I would say it's hoppy, but it's also got like a burnt malty profile, almost like a porter. So it's almost like a very hoppy porter.
Okay.
Which actually, ironically, you're drinking Guinness, and beers that have really impressed me that are kind of along this line. There's Guinness had a few years back. They had these packs of like that they were doing this old recipe series where they had like old recipes from Guinness from 100 years ago that they were bringing out. One was like the West Indies, and they were porters, which porters and stouts nowadays are distinctly different. But way back when, a porter and a stout were almost the same thing. They really were. And there were some porters that were just like stouts, and there were stouts just like porters. So it was kind of interchangeable. And even with Guinness. And this one is like a West Indies porter, which basically was like kind of like a Guinness stout that was extra hopped. So it kind of goes back to, if you understand the origin of an IPA, the origin of an IPA is that in England, they like their pale ale. And at the time when the sun never set on the British Empire and England occupied India, they would ship beer on ships to India for the soldiers and people there. And the beer would be bad when it got there. It didn't make it. So if you look at the history of beer, way back in the story, I may have my facts a little off, but in general, the monks added hops to beer so they didn't have to brew. It wasn't beer at the time, it was something else. They wouldn't have to brew this beverage like every other day. They'd brew it once a week, and it would last for the week because hops is a natural preservative. So knowing this, fast forward a bunch of years to England, shipping their beer over to India, they decided to add hops to it. Just a pale ale. It was a pale ale that had this other flavor to it. It wasn't like IPAs we think of today in America that are citrusy and bright and all this. English pale ales tend to be very dry and different, but it's different hops, different. But the point is the same. It was stronger and it was hoppier, and they. Yeah, they.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the West Coast IPA. East Coast IPA. To E. Oh, that's my dog.
You got to visit. No, it's definitely good. I've tried a lot of different IPAs. In fact, there's one out of Brooklyn. There's one out of Brooklyn, New York that I got to admit I didn't think I was going to like nearly as much as I did, but it's called Resin, and I found it while I was over in England. I was over in England when I first tried it because I was like, oh, let me try this. It's an IPA. Let me give it a shot. I tried it. I'm like, wow, this is really good. Where's it from? I look at it, I'm like, Brooklyn, New York. I came all the way over here. Yeah, I came all the way over to England to try a beer from Brooklyn, New York. Like, really? Yeah, and it's good stuff.
That's really cool. It's kind of funny to your story. There's the Maine Beer Company, which makes good beer, and they have an IPA. They come in bombers, and they have an IPA called Lunch. And living in upstate New York, you'd think we get Maine beer regularly, but Lunch you wouldn't find it very often. Never on tap. And the brewery, like the beverage center, we don't have beverage centers here. We have supermarkets and gas stations. There's beverage centers, which there's a couple of them that are fantastic, and one that I used to go to about once a month or so, EBI in Saratoga Springs. They're great place, nice people. And when they get lunch in, because it's so popular, they would sell right out of it. And for the regular customers, they'd keep one behind the counter for me. They'd have maybe a dozen of them for certain people. And if I asked them hey, if lunch comes in, hold me one. And every now and then I'd go in there and get one, but it wasn't every time. Sometimes I get a couple a year, that's it. So here we are, we're out here in Iowa, and a couple months ago, I'm with Michelle, and we're in West Des Moines, and we're in a Hy-Vee supermarket, and we have huge walk-in beer coolers and liquor stores and food courts in the supermarkets. It's not supermarkets out here are not like East Coast. They're bigger, and they're they got everything. They sell clothes in the supermarket. Yeah. So anyways, I'm in this, and I'm walking down, and lo and behold, in the beer cooler, I'm they have a shelf full of Maine Beer Company, and they have probably 6 or 7 deep lunch right there. Lunch is the name of the IPA, and they have dinner, which is a double IPA, and they have 4 other lagers and other ales. And I'm I've never seen this much Maine Beer Company beer in one place ever. And I lived close to Maine, and here it is in Iowa. And then we're out to dinner maybe a month or so ago, and in a place in West Des Moines called Salt, and they have a large beer menu, and they hand it to me, and I'm looking it over. I'm is this lunch on tap? Yeah, it's really good. Would you like a sample? No, I'd like a pint. And so the first time I ever had it on tap was out here. And I was
really?
This just blew me away that Maine Beer Company distributes out to Iowa more than they do on the East Coast, apparently. I don't know. Maybe they blew up. Maybe in the past year since I've lived here, they've increased their facility and their production. I'm not in tune with that. I don't know. The brewers I know a few brewers, but they're in the Albany and Saratoga area in New York, not Maine.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild where you go and you just find that little touch of, I won't say home, but this touch of something that you recognize.
Yeah.
It's really wild.
Well, that blew me away. They had it on tap. I was really?
Well, second segment of the show is State of Games. And if you don't have anything, that's cool. You can actually just pretty much say whatever you want. But it's State of Games is where we talk about what we've been playing, video games, tabletop games, board games. I mean, hell, you're playing Candyland, that counts. In the past week or so. And then, or you can just pontificate about what video games or about gaming in general. So I will kick it off. My State of Games has actually been pretty varied. I've been playing with my Steam Deck a bunch because I reserved that thing back in July of last year, and it came in, I want to say last week, Thursday, or maybe the week before Thursday. I can't even remember now because the weeks are blending in together. This time of year gets super quick with recital and everything else. But I've been playing V Rising. I have been playing Vampire Survivors, as well as I played a bit of Zombicide with a friend of mine who dropped down, Kurt, who actually couldn't be here tonight, which my fault. I ended up getting stuck doing a work event. I mean, that was a bad thing. It was really pretty much just go out to eat and drink a bunch of beer, but it was still a work event. But I've been playing a bunch of that. I've really just been digging into this Steam Deck. I'm really excited about, there's a game coming out tomorrow called The Quarry. And I don't know, did you ever play any of the PlayStation 4 games by any chance?
Hit and miss, not a ton.
So there was a game that came out for PlayStation 4 called Until Dawn. It's by Supermassive Games. And the best way to classify it is, I would say, interactive fiction. It's really more of like you're playing through a story with some quick time events, a little bit of exploration in there. You move your character around, but really it's a linear storyline. It's more of an interactive fiction. Kind of a choose your own adventure almost. Like you have some choices that you can affect the storyline. But Supermassive Games, they literally have gotten like, they were like Telltale Games when they came out with The Walking Dead and Wolf Among Us, all that jazz. Like I would throw money at Telltale Games all day long, and then they completely screwed up and just screwed the pooch. Supermassive Games seems to be doing things better, and they come out with a game and I throw money at them because it's actually the exact same thought process I had around the Steam Deck. I expected the Steam Deck to actually be junk. I really did. I expected it to be a crap piece of hardware, but I knew if Steam didn't sell enough of them on this run that they would never make a second one. And it's it's the curse of hardware sales. Like the first one that you make is never really that great. It's good, but it never really seems to be that great. But then like your second one is like off the charts. And that's what I expected with Steam Deck. And I got to admit, I'm really pleasantly surprised with what I got. So I've been doing a lot of Steam Deck gaming, and I'm really excited about Supermassive Games, which by the time this episode releases, it would have already released like 3 or 4 days ago. But that's fine. We're recording on a Thursday. It comes out on a Friday. I'm super excited. It's called The Quarry. It's a horror game. Supermassive Games really dials in on that interactive fiction and that horror game. So I'm super excited about that. I'll probably be streaming that when I start to play it because I really want to play it. But Soooda, what is your state of games?
You know, it's funny you're talking about things, and I remember when Steam first came out, and it was exciting for me, not being in recent years much of a gamer. It was as I understood it, a Linux-based like operating system designed as a gaming platform. So I don't play a ton of games, and one of the main reasons I haven't had a ton of time, and another main reason I don't have a gaming rig. And most everyone I knew up until fairly recently, their gaming rigs are Windows-based machines, and I have a few machines running in this house, none of which are Windows. But I haven't been a Windows tech for a long time. I'm pretty much immersed totally in Linux, and everything I run is Linux nowadays. It has been for years. So I used Windows for work, and then Apple at work, and now I'm pretty much a Linux and some Android. So Steam was exciting for me. It's like, oh, there's a new operating system coming out just for games, and it's called Steam. And that's I kind of got into it a little bit when it came out, and I thought that ultimately at some point I'd build a gaming rig. I haven't done it yet. It was going to happen. I wanted to get into it in January, February, but I went through some life changes that kind of set that back. So, I'm not really playing any like games that are going to be anything that's that exciting. I have found some online games. One that took me back. It's a couple of months ago. I found that took me back a long ways. There used to be a game called Lode Runner.
Oh my God.
Most kids don't know what Lode Runner is. Lode Runner goes back to like the 80s for us old guys. I got into Lode Runner after it was already around for a while, but there isn't much like it in that the fact that it comes with hundreds of levels, and you can design and build your own levels and give them to your friends to play and whatnot. And, when I was a kid, that was the shit. I was in college, that was the shit, I thought, and I actually remember playing it on like an Apple II and then on other devices. And so there's actually a web-based version of it now, and it's Lode Runner. Mm-hmm. So when I discovered that, I kind of like played that for like a week or two straight, a whole bunch of times, and then kind of got away from it and said, okay, that's an hour here, an hour there. That's too much time. I like other things. So when you talk about games, the game that I'm really into and I spend the most time on nowadays is not a video game. It's a game called disc golf.
Hey, that's a game that counts.
Yeah. I kind of got hooked on it. I got hooked on disc golf many, many years ago when I worked for the bike tour. I worked for the Tour de Pont when there was the Tour de Trump turned into the Tour de Pont. It was the biggest bike race in America. And I used to work for it. It used to be a vacation every year. Used to travel to Maryland and Virginia and all the way down to Atlanta and other states. Used to cover, I think, 13 states or 7 states in 13 days or something like that, depending on the year. And what we would do is we would not only be staff members at it, but we would sign up to return vehicles. So, for example, like the last year, we'd end in Marietta, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, and we'd have to return all our vehicles to Wilmington, Delaware. And so we'd have small vehicles and large trucks and all kinds of things, and they'd have to be returned. And so a whole group of us would sign up, and each one would be driving a truck. And we were young and dumb, but we would say, okay, we're on a schedule, and they know when we get gas. They know the timing when we stop and when we check in the hotels and all that. So we have to save like 3 hours on this trip. So the little car is going to run interference, and the trucks are going to hightail it, and we're going to get there like a couple hours early so we can find a disc golf. And that was our pastime. And we'd play like every chance we got. We'd play disc golf, and then after that, for years and years, didn't play it. It wasn't in upstate New York. It just wasn't a thing there, but it was in the rest of the country. And one of my friends, who I met long before you, when I was in college the first time, he moved to Texas and started raising a family, and then moved to Oklahoma. And these are places that have disc golf courses. So he continued to play like regularly, and he's a pro now. He's really good, like really good. Like when I takes me 3 or 4 shots to get a hole, he drives and he's next to the hole. I mean, it's nice. Birdies every shot. Oh yeah, he's really good, and his kids are really, really good, like outstanding. So, and I've played with, I've gone and played with him a bunch, but now here we are in Iowa, and I started maybe 3 or 4 years ago playing quite a bit, and I'm not good, but I play a lot. I've had a couple injuries and setbacks that really set me back. Like 2020, I couldn't play all summer. It was a hand injury. But I started playing left-handed. But now that I'm in Iowa, there's a lot of disc golf courses out here. Like a lot. Like right from where I live here, there's 2 that are 8 or 10 minutes away at the most that I can get to. I played yesterday. Actually, there's 3. There's a third one that's actually even closer. It's Interstate Battery. Interstate Battery, I don't know if it's headquarters or one of the main offices. There's 9 holes on their grounds. Short course. Can't lose a disc there. So it's real easy to kind of stop by and play 9 holes in half an hour and get out, or spend a little longer. There's a field up there to go and throw drivers across, and it takes time. It's you don't realize there's a lot of skill and practice involved. The discs don't always go where you want them to. They don't fly straight. So there's control there, and how do you throw them and what discs you're using and all that stuff. And I'm no expert. I just enjoy it. It's good exercise to get out and walk around. I'll say this, the courses up here are a lot different. I miss some of the courses back home. I really do. I like some of the courses here. I haven't been to all of them, so I'm still learning. But there's courses back home that are in heavy woods with a lot more obstacles on the side of hills. There's a lot more hills in upstate New York than there are in Iowa. Iowa's pretty flat. One of the courses I absolutely love, which is very challenging, more challenging than anything I've seen here. It's called Heiser Creek, and it's literally on the side of a mountain in the forest. And so when you're throwing, the fairway is literally like a corridor through trees. And if you don't stay in that corridor, you hit a tree, you're off one side or the other, and then you got to dig out. And then you're throwing through, you're finding a gap one way or another and trying to get around something or through it. It's up and down hills. Some are steep. And a lot of rocks. It's hiking. You wear your boots. It's beautiful. There's stuff at that course that I haven't seen on any other course really. You remember SPAC? SPAC has 18 holes, and they were going to put in 9 more. So SPAC was kind of a romping ground. You used to swing by there quite frequently and play. Right around Peerless Pool, if you remember the pool is, going right in a circle around it, there's 9 holes. They all have 2 tees each, so you can play the A holes and then play the B holes and get 18. And like I said, they're going to put in 9 other holes, so they could have potentially 36. And in Tahoe, which is a park about equal distance from SPAC in the other direction, you might remember, behind like the Stewarts on Route 50, going towards the Northway. There's a park in there. I used to mountain bike all the time, and there's 18 holes in there. That was like one of my favorite places because I get there in 5 minutes from where I used to live, and I used to swing by there quite frequently. A lot of it's in the woods, which has its kind of advantages. It's not crowded. It's quiet. You're in the woods. You get a little of that, walking in the woods kind of feel. You don't get hassled if you want to open a beer. Whereas in a lot of parks, like in Iowa here, I don't bring beer with me. I do occasionally, but I keep it very, very low key. Whereas, in New York, as long as you never leave anything, bring your cans with you. But, so yeah, I played Waterford Park yesterday. I brought one beer with me. It's 13 holes, so they're all odd numbers out here. Not like 9 or 18. There's 13 and there's 11 hole courses. It's weird. But
weird.
I usually get to where I'm on like hole 9, which is where it goes kind of in the woods for the last 4 or 5 holes, and that's hole 9 is when I open a beer, and by hole 13 it's gone. So that's my one beer for the course, my one beer for the afternoon.
Very cool. Well, I say
that's my game. That's my main game, I guess.
Well, the meat of the subject tonight was, and I hope you've caught up. If not, then I'm going to have to censor myself. But the meat of the episode tonight is the Obi-Wan Kenobi series on Disney Plus. Now, I hope I'm assuming you saw The Mandalorian, and I'm assuming you saw Book of Boba Fett.
Yep.
So
and I watched episode 4 last night, so I'm up to date.
Excellent. So, I mean, Mandalorian, I think most everybody agrees, and you can chime in if you disagree, but most everybody agrees that the Mandalorian is fantastic. It's just been stellar so far. Book of Boba Fett, I've got my gripes about. Seems more like it was Grogu and Friends than Book of Boba Fett, but we'll take it for as it is. But now we're into Kenobi. So for a quick synapse, and if you're afraid of spoilers, this is probably not the episode to listen to. But for a quick synapse, Kenobi is Obi-Wan Kenobi 10 years after episode 3. So Order 66 has been executed. Jedi have fallen. The Empire has taken firm control of everything that they possibly can. And Obi-Wan Kenobi has literally cut himself off completely from the Force. Went out, buried his lightsaber in the middle of nowhere, just given up the whole thing. Now, there's a lot to unravel with Kenobi. So he starts off, and it introduces him looking after Luke, like he's keeping an eye on Luke, which that's what his mission was to be. He's on Tatooine, hanging out, just looking after Luke. And it starts off pretty, I don't want to say slow, but it starts off pretty methodical. You're introducing the character, you're showing that he's a stark contrast from the Obi-Wan that we know from episode 1, 2, and 3 from the Clone Wars cartoons. He's a stark contrast from General Kenobi. But just on that first episode, what was your take when you watched it? Like, what was your takeaway when you watched it?
Well, you think back to episode 3 and the end of it, the epic battle when Anakin turns to the dark side and starts following the Emperor, and Obi-Wan, comes to the realization that he's no longer Anakin's master, and he's no longer training Anakin, and Anakin's kind of broken off and gone to the dark side. Everything that he taught him to fight against, and everything he taught him, like his whole plan, everything he's dedicated his life to, raising this boy, this prodigy, that raising him, following his master's wishes on his dying bed, raise the boy, train the boy, he's going to bring balance. And, maybe he did bring balance in making the Sith stronger. I don't know. But so he spent his entire life training this boy, training him in all of the values that he learned, which is the opposite of Sith. And here he had to come to the realization that it's gone horribly wrong, gone the opposite. Anakin is not just becoming a Sith, he's becoming the most powerful Sith ever. He's Darth Vader, right? So, and then basically before he was Vader, though, they have this fight. And it's epic fight where it basically comes down to Anakin trying to bring him back, trying to say, what are you doing? Come back. Let's, and then Anakin, don't push me or I'm going to have to kill you. And, Anakin strikes out and Obi defends himself, and it turns into this epic battle on a lava planet. And, Obi in defense, he's up on a higher ground. He's like, you've lost. I have the higher ground, give up. Let's just go home and call it over. And Anakin's like, no, I'm going to charge you. And Obi-Wan, takes his arms and legs off. It's brutal, and leaves him there burning on a lava pit, and leaves him there. And assumes he's dying, he's dead. And I imagine, in my mind, Anakin is now tortured, right?
Anakin
after that Order 66 happens. Obi-Wan is now tortured. Anakin obviously also, but Obi-Wan is now tortured. He's living a life after Order 66 when, the Empire has formed and Jedi are being exterminated. And so he's basically took these two babies, which are Anakin and Padme's kids. Padme's dead. He assumes Anakin's dead. And the two kids, which are the future, he's taken them and they've gone into hiding, right? And so he's watching the brother. He's watching Luke. And meanwhile, he's living all by himself. Solitude doesn't do the best for the human mind. We're social creatures. So he's living in solitude and probably tormented, probably having some nightmares all the time. And he turns his back on the Force. He totally disconnects from the Force. He's no longer considers himself a Jedi. He considers the Jedi to be gone, to be like, there's no more Jedi. They're gone. And so at the beginning of this show, Obi-Wan's kind of like, hey, I'm an old man, watching this kid grow up, keeping him safe, but there's no more Jedi. I'm not a Jedi anymore. And then kind of, as the show goes on, he learns that, Anakin's not dead. And we all know from the end of episode 3 that, the Emperor went and saved Anakin and turned him into Darth Vader. And the turn was complete after the battle.
Let me chime in there. So I was, when they first announced Kenobi, my brain was swimming on, okay, where are they going to go with this? How are they going to do this? They have so much canon that they have to work with. Like they've got everything that they built up in the Clone Wars about who General Kenobi and who Obi-Wan Kenobi was. And they have everything from A New Hope and on of who Kenobi was. And they have canon to fit in the middle of. So it was one of those, like, the first thing that came up was, how are they going to have Obi-Wan and how are they going to have Darth Vader know Obi-Wan is still alive and leave him on Tatooine? And the first thing that came to mind was they have to have any time that Vader deals with Obi-Wan not be on Tatooine. Because if it was, it would be over. Like, there's no possible way. He would literally scour and burn that planet to the, just to ash, looking for Obi-Wan. So that was the first thing that came up. And so far in the series, they've done just that. They've kept every interaction between Vader and Obi-Wan off Tatooine. So that, I'm glad.
Well, the story is actually that Obi-Wan has to leave Tatooine, and he's very reluctant to do so because he's leaving his mission, but he's doing it specifically to help Leia, the other child, because Leia pretty much has gone missing. So,
she gets abducted,
and her father, right? And her father's like, you're the only one that we know that could go get her back. So we know that you're gonna have to leave, right? So that's why he leaves, and that was kind of like, that was the reason for him leaving Tatooine. And to your point, it's very good that happened, because you're right. If Vader got there, he probably would have killed Luke and Owen.
He would have murked everyone.
Through.
So another gripe another little gripe that I have. Well, that's okay. So I'll go with something I like, because there's no use. I don't like to complain about something, but one thing I want to say that I like. I like that they went the route that Ben disconnected himself completely from the Force, because otherwise Vader would have been able to sense him, like, no matter what. He would have just been able to hone in on him in some way, shape, or form, and found him, and then and sussed him out, and been like, "Hey, guess what? I'm here to wreck house." So that he completely cuts himself off from the Force, and he really doesn't even try to touch the Force until he's off planet again, trying to save Leia when she falls. I like that they went that route. And they even doubled down, I think, going that route, because it's kind of like one of those things like riding a bike. Okay, riding a bike is easy. Once you learn how to ride a bike, you never really forget how to ride a bike. However, if you don't ride a bike for a really long time, it may be a little sketchy for you to let go of the handlebars and ride with no hands for a little bit. Not saying a long time, but you don't just jump right back on and start doing wheelies right off the bat again, or start riding rails and stuff. You kind of like work your way back into it. And I think I like what they're doing in that realm. He's completely disconnected himself, and he's just like, I haven't touched it. And now that he's been thrusted back into the situation where he has to kind of start relying on the Force again, you can kind of see him start to get the training wheels are on. He's trying to work it. And just like even in this last episode, did you see him in the hallways where he was doing deflections of the blaster bolts, and he deflects one behind him that smokes a stormtrooper behind him, and he kind of looks back like, holy crap, that worked. Did you see that?
Yeah, I think he's getting more and more. He's kind of getting his feet under him as the episode, and I think that comes from the third episode when Vader confronts him
and claps him.
He's actually using his lightsaber for light, for a change, like a flashlight almost, because it's so dark out there. And there's Vader outside wherever they were. And Vader's like clearly outmatching him, and he's basically defensive moves and fighting for his life. And if he doesn't get help at the end, he would have got tortured and then brought back to Vader's place, and then tortured more and interrogated and all that. So the point is, in getting his ass kicked, but in having to fight and actually having to face mortality, basically, and facing an enemy that's ready to tear you apart. And he kind of got his feet under him a little bit. And I think this is the next episode. He's slowly turning back into the Jedi. Now, way back in the first episode, there's flashback, how it all opened. And by the way, that sequence at the very beginning of the first episode, which was a montage of the prequels and leading up to this. I thought that was extremely well done. I thought that was really well done, setting it up, kind of setting the stage. And in that, there was Anakin's voice saying, Obi-Wan is as wise as Yoda and as strong as Mace Windu, which really kind of puts him, as he looks at him, there was a point in Obi-Wan's life, in his career, when he was younger, but there was a point where he was one of the most powerful and wise Jedi. Mm-hmm. He was. He was as adept with a lightsaber as Mace Windu, as wise as Yoda. I mean, that's saying a lot. So, and here he is. He's fallen very far from there.
Oh, yeah. It's almost like he's gotten like depressed and just like that whole syndrome of just he's beaten himself down. Yeah. Like he's his own worst enemy.
Well, after working your whole life to raise this boy and having it fail horribly, like your whole main mission in life failed. Everything you did worked the opposite of what you're trying to do. And now you watched not only your prodigy, your brother, you had to fight him, and pretty much he thought he killed him, but did what he did to Anakin. And also Padme, Obi-Wan, I don't know if there was any lust there. There might have been, but they were definitely friends. He cared for her. Mm-hmm. He cared about her. She was a family member in many ways. So at the end of episode 3, he lost his family. He'd already lost Qui-Gon. He lost Anakin and Padme. Mm-hmm. Right. He lost his family, and his job now is to live alone in the desert and watch over this boy whose parents don't want him around. Like, you keep your distance, old man.
Is that his job, or is that his penance? Like, so that's where the thing is. Like, is that his job, or is that his penance that he's given himself because he thinks that he killed Anakin? Like, he goes into, we start off the first episode, Obi-Wan doesn't know that Anakin is still alive. He thinks in his soul that he killed Anakin. And I liked that they went down that route, because that gives much more, Like if they just started off that Obi-Wan just cut himself off from the Force because he knew bad shit was going on, and he's like, I'm going to cut myself off from the Force. Like if they went that route, if he just decided to do that with no real rhyme or reason other than to try to hide, it would have been really cowardly. And I don't know if I would have liked it. That they went down the route of he thinks he killed Anakin, so he's in that pit of despair of I killed this person that I loved. And that he really thinks that he did that. I mean, just like what you said, like his family is dead. His family has died.
I can't hear you. Good night. Sleep well. I'll see you in the morning, okay? Okay. Good night. Okay. Good night. Good night. Good night.
So
good night,
that he goes down that route. I like that they went down that route of giving him that plot point of he thinks, and he thinks that he's done this heinous thing. And then in episode 2, the third sister reveals, oh no, he's not dead. Anakin's still alive. And that you see that, and right. I thought it was really well done, where Obi-Wan is literally just frozen there processing. Like, he's literally just processing what you can see in his head, he's going, was she telling me a lie? She was just saying it to get under my skin. No, was she really though? I can see this actually being
that
him.
That face he had was a look of horror.
Yeah. Like it was processing everything that was just said.
In all the movies and all the Obi-Wan scenes, that's like the one face that he has that he really looks scared.
Mm-hmm.
He looks horrified. Like what? Like totally shocked. Like he's the kind of person that no matter what happened, if you think about Obi-Wan, it's really hard to catch him off guard.
Mm-hmm.
Like no matter what happens, he always seems to be like, okay, let's do this. Okay, he's always got a solution. He's always got an idea. He's like in a lot of ways, he's kind of like a MacGyver. He's always got something for the situation.
He's got a defensive plan.
In that situation, when he's like Anakin's alive, and he stops and starts thinking about it, and maybe feels something. And that's when it shows Anakin awake in the tank, like he feels something. Like all of a sudden, he's horrified. He's like, how can this be? Mm-hmm. It's one thing that he would have never expected. So that's really a bizarre place for it to go in his mind. And the other thing is, like, if you think about it, you could make the case. You could think that his skills have been declining from the battle with Anakin,
mm-hmm.
that battle with Anakin in the lava pits, all the way through. Like, yeah. His skills have consistently been, maybe they come back up a little bit, but they're never quite to the peak where they were. They never seem to be. And even Alec Guinness, the old Obi-Wan, on the first Death Star, when he faces Vader, he has no fear, but he also doesn't have the skills that he once had.
No.
Like, he gets to a point where he's like, I'm not going to fight you. If you strike me down, I'm going to become more powerful than you'd ever imagine. How? Because he'll be able to talk to Luke. He'll be able to talk through the Force. But he's like, I'm not going to fight you because you're going to waste me. So I'm just going to drop my lightsaber and let's let it go.
So there's a little thing on that with episode 4 and Obi-Wan dying. So him saying that, like, if you really think hard about it, and I don't think that be condescending, but when he says he'll become more powerful than you ever imagine, I don't think he means about becoming a Force ghost and being able to lead Luke on. I think it's that Luke seeing him die that's going to fuel Luke to go battle Vader. Like that's his mission now, is to go battle Vader. That makes sense. Yes, I would agree with that. That there's two sides to that, and perhaps it's twofold. It's both. Yes, it's gonna make Luke, it's gonna motivate Luke, embolden Luke, whatever you want to say, to go after Vader. But also, it's that he's going to still be able to guide Luke and be Luke's master beyond the grave. Well, and I'm hoping that we're going to see this in this episode or in this series, because he hasn't talked to Qui-Gon yet, so he hasn't learned that ability to Force Ghost. So I'm hoping that they're going to show that in this series, because if they don't, it's going to be really tough, mechanically, to say how he learned that skill. Because if Qui-Gon doesn't teach him, who the hell does?
Oh, I think that's coming. I thought from the very first episode on, that's going to happen. I'd be shocked if it doesn't, because of the way they set it up. Because of and the other thing is, if Obi-Wan was not able to continue to mentor Luke from the grave, remember, Obi-Wan is the one who told Luke to go seek out Yoda. Luke had no idea who Yoda was. Mm-hmm. It was Obi-Wan that sent Luke, go to Dagobah, go and see this guy Yoda. And that's the whole reason why that linkage happened. So, he kind of had some foreshadowing there. In his mind, he's like, okay, I'm not going to fight Vader now. Vader will kill me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let him kill me, and I'm going to let Luke see it. And then I'm going to guide Luke to Yoda. And then Luke is going to end up being the only one that can take Vader down. Because I can't anymore. I'm too old, and I don't have the skills I once had. I'm too old. Where Vader is younger, and he's a cyborg. He's a cyborg. Yeah, he's half cyborg. Now. What about? So we mentioned that and talk about Vader. Just I don't want to derail this, but just the scene that Vader coming out of the tank, Anakin coming out of the tank. I mean, the only other time we really see Vader take the helmet off is the end of Jedi. Let me look on you with my own two eyes. When Luke, my son, let me look at you with my own two eyes. I'll pull the helmet off. But now the scene where it came out and he got the arms detached and the helmet and the breathing apparatus and all that. And by the way, he didn't breathe until they put the breathing apparatus on him, which was after all this other stuff happened. So he kind of was holding his breath for a minute there,
Or
what a gruesome, maybe. What a gruesome scene. Those weren't nice little snap-on parts. They all look like they hurt. Look like he's in pain every time he wakes up and goes through that routine of putting the Vader suit on. It looks like it's extremely painful. I mean,
it doesn't look fun.
They did a great job. I mean, as far as the costuming and the effects, they overall have been really good.
Oh, 100%.
As you would expect from Star Wars, yeah. Well, as you expect now from Star Wars. I think early on, they were good for the time, I guess.
No, 100%. I agree with you completely. So, I forgot, I had one gripe and I forgot what it was. Oh. So that whole Vader fight where Vader and Obi-Wan battle, they get to one another. Vader is obviously way overpowered in comparison to Obi-Wan at this point in time. Force chokes him, drags him down into fire. Now, here's where I actually have a gripe. So, you're going to, and I don't mean you as in you physically, but just the euphemism or whatever the fuck it is for you. You're going to tell me that Vader can force choke this man, hold him up, drag him down into a fire pit, put this fire out with the Force, but then when somebody else lights the same fire in the same location, that he can't just either A, put the fire out and stormtroopers go in and clap people, B, pick ObiWan Kenobi up with the Force choke right through it like he did just a few moments ago, or C, walk right through that shit
and throw some stormtroopers on the other side. Right. Walk right through it, or lift a couple of stormtroopers up and put them on the other side. Oh yeah.
Why did none of this happen?
There that was campy.
Yeah, why did none of that happen?
I'm the kind of person when it comes to something like Star Wars that my suspension of disbelief is strong with me. So I'm willing to just accept it as the storytelling as whatever. But you're absolutely right. There's a couple of pieces in it, and it's like one sniper is going to take out Vader and a small cadre of stormtroopers. You would think the stormtroopers would she was shooting from the hill, they would just
unload, spray and pray.
Right, exactly, and that would be trouble.
Quality.
The second thing is, put the fire out or walk right through it, and so what? His cape gets burned. What does he care? He's been burned before. He's after Obi-Wan. The most important thing to get him in the world right now is getting Obi-Wan. he's not afraid of walking through fire. Why not?
No.
He's been in fire before. Or lift up, like I said, lift a couple stormtroopers, put them on the other side. You know, I have no idea why. Maybe using the Force drains him like mana, and after he did this and did that and did this, he's kind of drained. He can't do it for a little while till he recharges. I'll say this, as far as him using the Force, how brutal was it when he was trying to smoke Obi-Wan out of the village? When he was just pulling people out of their houses and dragging them out to sleep by their throats.
Snapping people's necks.
The one person that was trying to stop was snaps the guy's neck and just I mean, yeah, Vader being Vader, right? I mean, like, okay, you know, he's got that reputation as being an evil bastard.
If there's one thing the series has done, it has given Vader like the actual Vader. Like now we see what Vader is. Because in A New Hope and Beyond, we don't really see who Vader is. Like they just talk about how badass he is. And he's done some like, I'll force choke you and then I'll let you go. But like, I'm really this badass. Like they talk about how badass he is, but they never actually show it. And now in this series, like even when he was Vader back in episode 3 and he was just going through and killing younglings and stuff, it's like, okay, that's like sinister. That's maniacal. That's evil.
That was pretty brutal. That's about as brutal.
It's brutal, but
about as brutal as it gets.
But it's not nearly as brutal as what they showed in Obi-Wan. Like him taking Obi-Wan and dragging him like with the Force through fire. Just this is now the pain you feel. It's like, holy crap! This is Vader. This is the Vader I envision. What'd you say?
What scene was it? Was it the end of Rogue One when there's a short Vader scene when he comes to the
hallway
door
scene? Yes,
just whipping people outside and just
that is Vader. Like that's the first touch of Vader you get. Where you're like, wow, he really is a badass. But in Obi-Wan, like him walking through that village trying to suss out Kenobi, and then him actually facing Kenobi and just the brutality that he had against him, you really get a sense of who Vader is. And to be honest, like, he should have been able to just wreck Kenobi there. Like, even with that fire that showed back up, full on wreck Kenobi. The only thing that I rationalize for that, and I was talking to some people at work over this too, the only thing I can rationalize is that Vader wants that fight. Like, he wants to have that fight. Not just any fight. Not just a one-sided fight. Not just, I'm clapping him. He wants the fight he deserves. He wants the fight that he should have won. That's the only way I can rationalize it in my head. Unless you got another theory.
Yeah, I think he definitely wants to fight, but I don't think he wants to kill him. I think when he said it, when he was dragging him through the flame there, I realized at that point, he wants to fight him, but he wants to torture him. And he wants to interrogate him because what are they trying to do? They're trying to find all Jedi, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obi-Wan might have information about where the other Jedi are.
I don't think Vader cares about that. I don't really think he cares. I think he wants to just toy with Obi-Wan.
He does, but he wants to do it all. He wants to fight him, he wants to beat him, and then he wants to torture him. And before he kills him, I think he wants to interrogate him. I think he wants to interrogate him to the fullest and do it in the most painful, drawn out, nasty way he can, because he hates Obi-Wan. Like, hatred at the deepest level of hatred that there is. I think Vader hates Obi-Wan more than he hates anything. And he's a man that's basically built and full of hate. And he hates Obi-Wan more than anything. So I don't think he wants to just kill him. I think that would be way too easy, let him off. In his mind, he wants to torture him, but in the process, he wants to interrogate him, because if you remember what he did to Leia in the first movie, he's torturing Leia. Trying to get where's the rebel base? Yeah. Where's the rebel base? Right. He's into torture. He's not afraid of torture. He likes torture. I think he gets off on it. I think that's and the fact that he could beat Obi-Wan, then torture Obi-Wan, hurt Obi-Wan, and then torture him more by interrogating him and making him, because think about it, regardless of the physical pain, if Obi-Wan spills the beans on locations of other Jedi, That's a form of torture also. That's a huge form of torture. That's emotional torture. Like he's giving up secrets that, to the worst place he could give them. So if Vader can actually pull that information from him, no matter how he does it, whether he sucks it out of his mind, whether he makes him speak it, whatever he does, it's going to be torture for Obi-Wan. And I think more than anything, Vader wants to torture that man. He wants to
make him suffer. Definitely.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then maybe at the very end of it all, maybe then it's like, okay, now I'll kill you.
Yeah, Vader definitely wants to torture him. I mean, where we left off, and I was half hoping we weren't going to see, if this wasn't going to turn into the major plot point of it's just the rescue of Leia. Like I was hoping we were going to see just more Obi-Wan, but I guess my one big gripe, and it's one of the things that just baffles me whenever they deal with Star Wars, is and how they can screw it up. Like it's just literally beyond me. You just put 2 or 3, or I don't care. Just put people fighting with laser swords. I don't care what the hell's going on. Like, you literally could have okay, let's be honest. The writing for Star Wars has never been exactly top tier. It's been campy. It's been cheesy. It's there. It keeps you interested. But I want to see people fight with laser swords. Like, that's what got me into Star Wars back when I was a kid. That's what everybody I talk to, and you might be the difference, but everybody I talk to, when I say, well, what do you want to see more of in Star Wars? He's like, I just want to see wizards fight with laser swords. Like, that's what I want to see. I'm like, I can't discount that, because that is just like, really, seeing Luke and Vader fighting in The Empire Strikes Back with laser swords. Like, who did not want a lightsaber growing up? It was just one of those things. Like, and that's where I think they're really missing out. And that's what I'm hoping these next 2 episodes they really capitalize on. We already know that we're getting a second season, so that's a thing. We already know we're getting a second season.
I hope so. I mean,
no, it's announced. We're getting a second season. In,
but my thing is, it's only 6 episodes, which I know that movies are only 2 hours long and 6 episodes are 6 hours long or whatever, but it feels like it's going by really, really fast. And I've watched all the Marvel shows, and I watched Mandalorian, and I watched Book of Boba Fett. This feels like it's going by, maybe it's because I'm enjoying it a lot, but it's going by like faster than anything. Like, I can't believe we're 2/3 of the way through it. There's only 2 episodes left. And literally, 13 days, it's going to be done. Mm-hmm. It's like,
it's going quick.
I don't even know what to think. Yeah. So I kind of feel like they almost need to do a second season just to appease all of us, because if they only did 1 season, it'd be very empty feeling, don't you think?
Well, Howard, that's where they only got 2 episodes left. They either have to cram a lot into these next 2 episodes. And keep in mind that it was announced way back when that we're supposed to, in this season, get the fight of the decade. Like, it was advertised that we were going to get an Obi-Wan Vader fight.
Was it?
It was.
Okay.
It like way back, I forget when, but way back it was advertised that we were going to get, like, I think they called it the fight of the decade.
Okay.
And I just don't know how they're going to pull this off. Like, I don't see where they can go with it, because they still have, they have the Leia loose end that they have to tie up. They have the third sister loose end that they have to tie up, because there's no way that the third sister is going to stay there. And let's also address the Grand Inquisitor.
Right.
Like, if he's actually
really
dead, they he can't be, because if he is, they've just broken continuity. Because what is it, Rebels that comes after, where he's there? Like, he's alive and well. So
I don't think he's dead.
No, he can't be. He just can't be. With all the things that have been happening, like when you watch The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, all the people who have gotten some fatal wounds and they've just like roboticized them and all of a sudden they're back and they're good to go.
Ooh, you think he'll be roboticized? Do you think the Emperor will get a hold of him and maybe he'll give him like a middle, like what's his name had or something? And...
Yeah, or Vader. Why not?
Okay.
I mean, did to Vader. Why wouldn't Vader turn around and be like, well, we have the technology, let's do it? Or Grievous. Think of Grievous.
Do they all? Well, Grievous, I think the way I interpret it was that the Emperor was toying with that type of technology, like keeping people alive, bringing people back, and that Grievous was like an early prototype.
Mm-hmm. But even look at Grievous.
Vader,
I mean, that happened with Grievous.
And I can't even think of it because it's 10 years ago, but there was a comic. It was like a one-off comic, a what-if kind of comic. And the cover was Darth Maul, and he had like spider legs, like mechanical spider legs. Because
he and ObiWan fight in Tatooine.
You do. He was like right, exactly. He was going after Obi-Wan because Obi-Wan, right. And he was like a prototype before Grievous in that, at some point, they saved Darth Maul and gave him legs. Then he didn't get 2 legs. He got, I believe it was 6 legs, like 6 or 8 legs, like a spider and ant, like an insect, like robotic legs. That.
And supposedly that fight is canon because I think in Clone Wars they flash forward or something, or maybe it was Rebels. I can't remember which one, but they have that fight between Darth Maul and Obi-Wan on Tatooine, or they have a flash forward or something. I haven't watched it yet, but of course, talking about Star Wars, spoilers come up. And I want to say that happened, but I've got to go back and I've got to read through it all, see if I can catch it. Well, where do you think they're going to go from here? Like, we've got 2 episodes left. What do you think their main focus is going to be? Well,
before we get into that, let's talk about the 4th episode for 1 minute. Okay. So I did mention my suspension of disbelief, and you talked about the flame and that the fight with Obi-Wan. That, I think even more egregious than that was some of the things that happen in the 4th episode, and specifically, like how easily it seemed like he got into that base and he got Leia and got out of that base. It seemed, I don't want to say it was easy, but like, and then he put a cloak on him and was walking out there with Leia underneath here. You got a base full of what? Stormtroopers in uniform, Imperial people in uniform. Mm-hmm. Nobody's wearing a robe out to here on both sides, carrying with a kid with 4 legs, right? I mean, and then Third Sister's the only one that sees it. Third Sister was the only one that saw it, which it was almost like, almost a little campy. At the same time, I'm fine with it. Like, people are busy, they're going their heads down, doing their work, and they're not looking. But, the security there, there's security people there. They're like, hey, those people look suspicious. It wasn't until Third Sister knew about it and went running after them. Mm-hmm. And then, even when she did that, then at the very end of it, the twist on that is Vader's interrogating her, got her up in the air, and she's mad. She's like, don't worry, sir, this is all part of the plan. I put a bug on him. And we find out in the end it's Leia's little robot is bugged, right?
Yep.
Right. So if she put a bug on him, why was she even chasing after him? Why not just let all the stormtroopers look the other way and just let her go? Let him go.
Or first off,
instead,
to lead on to that,
and keep him there.
Well, you had to make it look good.
Why just let him go?
You had to make it look good. Because if you just let him go, they would have went, that was way too easy. And then they would have said, well, something's wrong. We got to start searching. But even going beyond that, okay? So Vader obviously knows that Leia Organa was there. The Third Sister knows Leia Organa was there. Already sent mercenaries to go find her on her planet. You know where he's going. He's going to drop this kid off. Like, you already know. All you got to do is just show up there and be like, all right, we're waiting. Do what they did on Cloud City. Just show up and be like, we're going to chill and wait.
He could be, that's true. Or he could be going to a midpoint where he's going to meet Bail Organa and say, "Here's your daughter," and then I'm gone, and then he goes back to Tatooine. They don't know they don't know he was living on Tatooine. They don't know where he was.
Logic would depict go find the parents or go wait at the planet. Just where he's going. He's going to make a connection somehow.
So there's two sides to this. The one is when this is all said and done, we know that ultimately Obi-Wan's going to be back on Tatooine and nobody's going to know he's there. So, because we know that's where he is when he's even older. When he's even older at the beginning of, well, that's right. How is he going to get to there? But we do know that at some point before A New Hope happens, which is years from now, but years from there. But at some point, he's going to get away, and he's going to get away secretly, and he's going to go hide on Tatooine, and they're not going to know he's there. Now, maybe they'll be looking there. There's stormtroopers in Mos Eisley. But they're looking everywhere for people. Maybe not. But he's going to go there and he's going to be able to hide, and he's going to be able to live there long enough to know about Jawas and know about different things. So at some point, he's going to get away. Now, how that happens, I don't know. But here's another aspect I want to point out. Vader can sense Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan can sense Vader. They're master. They train together. Vader can't sense his daughter. I mean, his daughter can't sense him. I mean, Leia's not a Jedi,
but she's force
sensitive, isn't she?
Oh yeah,
right. So he doesn't know when Vader's nearby. Like, something's not good around here. Like, I don't feel very good. I feel something. Is there somebody watching me? What's going on? Like something. And then Vader's like, there's a presence here that feels that I know it. It doesn't feel like Obi-Wan.
She looked like Padme.
Right. That's what. Yeah, he did make that reference. So if Vader sees her, that if Anakin sees a young Padme, he might immediately hey, that kid's Naboo. Is that kid from Naboo? Is that one in the bloodline from Padme, or awfully young? Did we have kids? I mean, he doesn't know. He doesn't know they have kids, but he figures it out, right? But he figures it out.
He thinks Padme is dead.
He does, but at some point, right, in Empire Strikes Back, when Luke goes to fight Vader, and Vader kind of has him and cuts his hand off, what does Vader say to him? Luke, I am your father. When does Vader figure it out that I had kids, that he has kids, or a kid at least? When does it, at some point, did he?
Boba Fett told him, yeah. Told him
How does
about
Boba
Luke.
Fett know? How does Boba Fett know that Luke is his child?
Oh, that's a great question.
Like, where does that information come from? How does Vader ultimately, like, where's the source of that information to feed Vader? Boba Fett told him, okay, so how does Boba, I mean, this was done in secrecy. This was done when the kids were born. Obi-Wan took them.
Mm-hmm.
He gave one to Alderaan. He gave one to Tatooine. He stayed with it. And the one at Alderaan was with people he trusted, the Organas.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, and the whole point of him going back there, when you mentioned that he would tear apart Tatooine looking for Obi-Wan, obviously he doesn't care. If he thought Obi-Wan was an Alderaan, he'd tear it apart. He's willing to sacrifice a whole planet in the New Hope, and he does. He blows it up.
Mm-hmm. And maybe that was even his thought process, that he thought Obi-Wan might have been there. So, well, I'll just nuke the whole planet. Make a point.
I don't know. I would think that if he thought Obi-Wan was there, that he would have, don't let any ships leave the planet. Don't let any ships go into the planet. Let's scour the planet and find him.
Even if I would think that he would do that too.
Even if it takes years, we're not leaving. We're staying right here. If he's on that planet, we're not going nowhere. We're going to stay right here, and we're going to just tear every grain of sand off the planet till we find him.
Yeah, we will find this man.
Yep.
Like, that's my expectation.
All the resources we need to spend.
And that's why he can't be found whatsoever on Tatooine. There could be no Vader Obi-Wan connection on Tatooine ever. Because if it is, then the whole canon is destroyed.
Well, I mean, that's true, but at the same time, look at where he is on Tatooine. He's not near any cities. He's way out there, hidden in a cave, more or less. So even if Imperial droids and Imperial, fly over it and search and scour it, Obi-Wan's smart. He's got a lot of wisdom. He knows how to hide. He could probably evade their droids and all this and stay in his little cave, and live off the land and not get found for a long time. He's, if anybody could do it, if anyone could do it, it's Obi-Wan. That said, growing old, living in a cave in the middle of the desert,
it takes it out of you.
Probably isn't the best for your mental health. I mean, it can't be good for mental health. I mean, we're social creatures.
Talking to Jawas.
Yeah, if he is talking to him.
Well, it's already shown that he's talking to him.
For Jawas.
Yeah, it's already shown that he's talking to him because he was dealing with that one. But I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm apprehensive about where they're going to go. But there's a lot of things I like. So I'm hopeful that it's I don't think the series is nearly as bad as it's been getting a rep for. I don't think it's nearly that bad.
Is it?
Oh, it's been getting torn apart. Oh yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah,
whatever. I don't.
There's talk of the only thing that can save the Obi-Wan series is Mando showing up and saving the day. That type of stuff. It's like, eesh.
I disagree.
Oh, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as bad as it's being portrayed as. I don't think it's nearly as bad.
The Mandalorian plus the Mandalorian's happening way in the future from this, and the Mandalorian showing up here, any Mandalorian showing up here would be ill-placed, and it wouldn't fit. It would ruin it. I don't think that's the story. I think it's been very good. I do think that what your point is, having that fight and having all the stuff that has to happen, I think that's very possible that at the end of the next two episodes, that there's kind of a cliffhanger. Mm-hmm. This story arc may not be complete. Mm-mm. The fight may still not have happened. Leia may or may not be home, or maybe Leia gets back to her dad, not on Alderaan, somewhere else, and something else goes on. But in the meantime, we're not done. Season 2 the arc is gonna continue. It's gonna find a stopping point, which could be a cliffhanger, and there you go. We'll see you in 6 months, a year, whatever, till the next season comes out. Go watch Marvel.
If we don't get a Vader Obi-Wan fight, and I mean by a fight, I mean an actual decent fight, I will be in this season. I will be disappointed. But however it rolls down to, you remember what Vader said to Obi-Wan when they met in A New Hope? When last we met, you were the master and I was the apprentice, basically. And he said, but now I'm the master. Do you remember that? So however it leaves, wherever they leave off next, Obi-Wan has got to have some sort of upper hand in the situation. He's got to, unless they're just ignoring that canonically.
No, I don't think they are. I think that we've been seeing Obi-Wan get stronger over the past 2 to 3 episodes. Slowly getting stronger, getting more in tune with the Force. He used it to save Leia. He's used it a couple times now. He used it to hold back the water and save Tala, Leia, and himself. And then to waste all the stormtroopers floating in the water that got drowned. So he's getting stronger. The lightsaber, like you said, deflecting, like he used to, and spinning it around, and all of a sudden looking like Obi-Wan, looking like his former self. It's in there somewhere. And I think Anakin, as much as Obi-Wan being present and Vader feeling like he could catch him now, is putting a fire under Vader, and Vader's definitely, obviously on top of his game. I think all of that is also bringing the best out of Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is at this point where it's like, hey, I need to be the Jedi that I was, and I need to believe in myself, or all is lost.
And I think that's the direction that they have to go. Like, that's the direction it feels like they're going.
By episode 6, he might be 95, 98, 100% by episode 6.
I'm hoping so.
In which case, when he is 100%, could he go toe-to-toe with Vader? Maybe. And given the scenario and the situation, think about Luke. Luke couldn't take on Vader in Empire.
No.
But by Jedi, he could. By Return of the Jedi, Luke could go toe-to-toe with Vader. He wasn't afraid of him anymore. He had been trained by Yoda. And he's like, I can, he has the Force, I have the Force. And I'm just as good with lightsaber as he is now. Well, Obi-Wan trained Anakin. He might actually have some tricks up his sleeve that he didn't tell him. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's still the master. So you're absolutely right. I think that's a very good point that, Obi-Wan could actually better Vader when all is said and done. But that may be in season 2. This season might be all about him, re-accepting the Force and re-embracing it and getting stronger and stronger and stronger, getting legs under him, so to speak. And so then going into season 2, then the stage is kind of set for that battle to happen.
And there was a scene in Return of the... it was Empire Strikes Back. You remember when Vader says, "I see Obi-Wan has taught you well"? Do you remember that scene?
Yes.
And do you remember where Luke was when he said that?
Impressive.
Luke had the higher ground.
The freezing thing, and he jumped.
Yeah, Luke had the higher ground.
Ah.
So that remark of, "I see Obi-Wan has taught you well," like that right there goes right back to Mustafar.
Right. Well, Obi-Wan, again, as wise as Yoda, as strong as Mace Windu, and Obi-Wan was not only Anakin's mentor, but he's Luke's first mentor, and maybe he learned a few things in teaching Anakin, like, hey, maybe I don't want to give him all this information up front. Maybe I got to give it to him in a different way, keep him on the path, as opposed to, And the other thing is, when he trained Luke, it was in a different situation. It was in a hurry, but it was in a different situation. Luke was older. When he trained Anakin, they were generals. And why were Jedi ever generals? I don't think I ever wrapped my head around that. Like, why Jedi became like army leaders?
I don't know.
Why wouldn't the army be the army and Jedi be Jedi? But it is what it is.
But Anakin also had a lot of like pomp and circumstance with the whole Jedi Order and learning the traditions and stuff that Luke never had to deal with.
That's true. He had to be on Coruscant. Yeah. But Anakin turned in a hard way. I mean, when you named it before, when he went into the school and wasted all the Padawan, and then when Obi-Wan saw that, it was like maybe that might be the only other time you see Obi-Wan shocked, really shocked, like caught off his guard. Mm-hmm. That, and when he finds out Anakin's alive. But when he saw Anakin do that, I was like, I trained this boy. He's my brother. I trained him. He would never do that. And here he sees on the video screen him doing that. Mm-hmm. Like, what?
And then even when they first met on Mustafar, you could see that Obi-Wan was trying to just like argue himself out of he didn't do this. This is not him. And he was arguing like you could see he was arguing himself out of it until he couldn't anymore. Like he literally could not. Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, let's say unfortunately it's getting pretty late here, so I've got to wrap this thing up. We got 2 more episodes left. I'm excited to see where it's going to go. I know we have a second season, so I'm hoping that they're going to give us some. I hope they're going to give us something good.
Yep,
that's all I'll say there. I hope they give us something good.
So I'm not clear on the timeline. Is it going to be after this season? Is it going to be we wait and then there's more Obi-Wan, or is like Mandalorian season 3 going to happen and then something else, and then this is like farther down the road? Like I don't know the timeline of these things. I haven't. Yeah, I have to figure that out.
I have not caught that, but we'll see. I mean, it's coming. Like freight train, it's coming.
A lot of media out there. A lot of Marvel shows. Ms. Marvel started last night too, which we haven't seen yet.
I haven't touched Miss Marvel yet.
Well, actually, my daughter's 8, and she saw the preview, and she's like, I want to watch that. So a lot of things are scary for her still, even at 8. But we did show her Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. She couldn't watch Spider-Man. I tried to get her to watch the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man like a year ago, and it was too scary. The spider bite. I was like, come on. But yeah, so maybe that's too scary, but Guardians of the Galaxy isn't, I don't know. I mean, there's music and dancing in it, and she's into that.
And Chris
crazy.
Pratt.
So I guess, yeah. So Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is coming out, and like, we don't get to go. Like, you asked the other night, like, if we had seen, Doctor Strange movie. No, I mean, I live here in Iowa. We've only been here a little while. We don't have a lot of friends here. There's no babysitters here that we know. So it's not like we do that. We do things as a family. So Michelle and I can't just go to the movies. We can rent things. We saw No Way Home, which was a blast. But we saw it's got a Blu-ray, a Redbox kind of thing. We rented it. So that's kind of the way we can watch movies. Doctor Strange, maybe we'll do it that way. Guardians 3, I'm thinking family movie night. Big screen.
There you go.
At some point. Yeah.
Well,
so Ms. Marvel, Michelle and I will probably watch the first episode, and if it seems like it's kid friendly, maybe we'll watch it with her and then watch that every week. That'd be kind of cool.
Well, on that note, where can people find you at if they so were deciding to look?
Me? I'm on LinkedIn. I have email. I have a phone. I don't have a podcast, so to speak, if that's what you mean. I'm on Facebook.
There you go. All right, man.
Yep. Look me up. I'm on Facebook.
Well, I'm Cecil Xavier, your host. You can find me on Cecil vs. Games on Twitter, Cecil Xavier everywhere else, sometimes with an underscore, sometimes not. You can find me on Ustream, Facebook, Twitch, Discord, I don't know, Tinder, Grindr, Bumble, Picket. I'm probably there. If I'm not, let me know. I'll upload there and go there as well. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Reviews help people find the show, so if you enjoy listening, let other people know. You can find us on Podcast Addict, Player FM, Spreaker, MyTuner, Your Listen, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We're everywhere. If we're not there, let us know. We will upload there. We're fine with that. But we're probably there if you're thinking of it. We are partnered with Humble Bundle. Humble Bundle is a game purchasing service with a twist. It allows you to purchase games, but when you purchase them, it also donates to charity simultaneously. If you put the !partner equals G.N.A podcast at the end of your link, it lets them know we sent you. If you get a little slider bar that allows you to pick where you want to send your monies, just put the slider bar for G.N.A podcast all the way down to 0. We don't want your money. Put it all to charity. Give some to Humble Bundle. Give some to the developers. We don't want your money. We just want to know that we sent you there. So it's !partner equals G.N.A podcast at the end of your Humble Bundle link. We also have a website, www.gnapodcast.com, with links to our Discord, as well as links over to our to our partner sites. It's Microboot Gamers. Here's a bunch of articles we just posted over there because it was a lot easier than trying to write a bunch of ourselves. And yeah, that's about it. Well, Soooda, man, thank you for joining me tonight. I had a good time.
Absolutely, this was fun.
We'll have to do it again.
Sure. Absolutely.
All right. Well, have a good night.
You too. Keep in touch.